We all want to have our desires met in bed, right? We all want to experience pleasure and intimacy with others, and we all want to enjoy sex. Most of you, at least, right? But how do we get there? What is our role in making sure that we experience pleasure with others? I am so thrilled to be offering another bonus episode straight from the feed of the One Podcast with Gina Catherine. This time we talk all about asking for what you want in bed. We offer a bunch of tips, all the way from like kind of baby step, beginner tips, all the way up to some quite advanced tips. Gina especially gives some tips that I think you will love to work toward and get comfortable with. And we also share a bunch of our own stories, some personal, private experiences, and it's a really, really lovely chat. So before you get under those sheets, push play on this episode. As always, let me know what you think. Please make sure to go and follow the One Podcast with Gina Catherine. Come over to Instagram and let me know your thoughts on this episode. I want everyone out there to be experiencing a bunch of pleasure in the bedroom. That is why we did this episode today. Enjoy.
Welcome to the One Podcast, the podcast for living from your most vibrant and authentic self. My name is Gina Catherine. I am a coach, a writer, and a speaker. My mission is to help you deeply connect to your body, heart, mind, and soul with curiosity, compassion, and play. While I offer these words from the perspective of a usually straight, cisgendered, able-bodied white woman, it is my heartfelt hope that this podcast holds nuggets of inspiration for anyone who feels like they could step more fully into their own life. If you want more love, more intimacy, and more play in your life, you're in the right spot. The One exists, and they are you. Welcome back to the One Podcast with Gina Catherine. I'm super excited to have Janice Formichella, host of Sex and the Solo Girl, back with me today.
Yay.
We always have fire conversations, which ignite a lot of people's lusty desire. And Janice and I were talking about sex and communication and intimacy. And it occurred to us that not everyone is as comfortable talking about sex and bringing up sex as we are.
Yeah. I sometimes have people, even close friends, like totally deer in headlights because I will just like start talking about my sex life when we're out and about. And I'm like, oh, right. People are not like prepared for that.
Yeah. But I think both of our mission is to get people prepared for that and to lift up some of the conditioning that this is not something that we're supposed to talk about so that everyone can get like this juicy pleasure out of life. And I think, so I think this episode's going to be amazing for a lot of people. So welcome, Janice. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you. I love doing content with you. We're so aligned. I'm so glad that we became friends last year.
Yeah, me too. Well, I'll just ask you, where do you suggest that someone start talking about sex?
I know that so many people feel thwarted, even if not especially in, romantic, serious relationships. And I am definitely on a mission to make this more commonly spoken about. And I've got some really basic starting points for
Okay.
If you are finding it challenging to use your voice, and I think for me, this is specific, I really want people to communicate verbally. This is not necessarily self-promotion in any way, but there are some really great podcasts. I have been listening to Sex with Emily since she very first started, which was about 20 years ago. She is a vet. She's one of the oldest podcasters. She makes the conversation of sex feel so easy. You will listen to her show and it's explicit, but it doesn't feel that way. And so I would say first go and get some resources. You can hear other people talking about it, and they cover the topic of communication a
Mhm.
lot. And I feel the more we're exposed to this type of content, we'll get more comfortable with it and then ultimately be able to implement it in our lives.
Yeah. I love that as a starting point because it's like maybe before you competitively swim, you might go and watch people competitively swim. You might watch it on TV. You might look and see,
Yeah.
like just get this little comfort level because it's about how much in contraction or in expansion, right? Like contraction means like I'm not supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to talk about it. But listening to podcasts like yours or mine or Emily's for sure, or just watching videos on OMG Yes, reading erotica. Okay, maybe that's a little bit of a jump for people
I don't
to
know.
jump.
Reading erotica. I mean, I know you have a lot of female listeners, listening to auto erotica might also be a place to start. Get a free trial and just see how you
Yeah,
feel.
I have 50-50 listeners. So I have 50% male, 50%.
Yay. I have lots of male listeners, especially on my breakups podcast. And we love you. Thanks for listening and getting informed.
Yeah, so I love that. So just
Yep.
dipping the toe in with listening to some podcasts, just getting used to, like, if you can't say ass, pussy, mouth, tongue, vulva.
Mhm.
If you can't say the words, we can't enhance sex and pleasure until we talk about sex and pleasure.
And that was going to be another one of my tips, maybe a little bit after. Well, let's just
Yeah.
quickly touch on it because this is fundamental, and that is self pleasure and making sure that you do self pleasure. And I have to say, maybe thinking outside the box or doing things a little bit differently other than laying on your back using your hand or your vibrator. Do things that are a little different, including using your voice when you're self pleasuring. I know for me when I first started, I would just sit there and it was great, but I would just be so silent. And
Mm.
again, the more you use your voice, even if you're just by yourself, I think the more comfortable you will be. I mean, now I'm like scared my neighbors are going to hear me.
Yeah. Yeah. If your neighbors aren't complaining, you're
um,
not doing it right.
I don't know. I told you my partner and I got a note under our door because one of my neighbors thought we were too loud, but that's for
Right.
another
And if you
time.
knew which neighbor it was, you could slip your card underneath their door.
We're pretty sure we know who it was. In fact, I had a party the other night, and Chris got up and he read it to everyone, and people thought it was hilarious. But yes, using your voice, even if you're just moaning, getting it out there. And I think a lot of people might feel weird at first, but it's important.
Yeah. And I'll even do you one easier, which
Okay.
is in self pleasure. So I think that this point that you brought up is super important because how can you ask for and relay what you want with a partner unless you know what that is? Relying on somebody else to bring you pleasure and offering yourself. I think it's like fun as hell, right? To just be like, do with me what you will. I'm your plaything. But,
Use your voice
and
just then.
right. And when you're in a dynamic where it's give and take and you're not just seeing what people have in their strategy, whether you're long-term partner or not, exploration, understanding that your body changes with your blood cycle, with your seasons, so if you're menstruating, if you're in the different phases of menstruation, like your body and what feels pleasurable to you changes all the time, even from morning to midday to evening. And so, baseline of just asking yourself, what would feel pleasurable for me right now? And what if I did this? And oh, I've never done this, right? So, allowing yourself and initiating exploration and adventure in your self pleasure is what starts. I actually had a partner who we said, okay, let's do this thing on Friday night where we do like non porn noises, like non acceptable noises, right? Like for in heteronormative relationships, women are supposed to be like, like making these like yummy noises, or we're not supposed to growl and bite and slather and say, and it was so liberating to both. This happened to be like, I think people who listen to my podcast understand that I don't fall, I fall outside of a heteronormative this was with a man, and he was just like, that was so much fun after, because his previous partners would get a little freaked out. And so when you're talking about using your voice, have this one session where you're just saying, let's vocalize in whatever way. Like, let's not control. Let's just like whatever wants to come out. If it's like grunting like a pig, and so
My goodness.
you're not racing, you're not like, what just happened? Is that good or bad? Or, the person is exploring their sounding and you're doing the same. And so you just plan it ahead of time with a partner.
And you get lost in the moment, which is something that's good about good communicative sex, is you're only thinking about that. And so the noises would have probably been coming out somewhat naturally. I'm not sure I've ever heard of this kind of play. That's awesome.
It really is so liberating too, because sound moves energy. And so when we block sounds and put them into a little box, like mewing, groaning, like these acceptable things. I'm doing the air quotes, acceptable. Everything's acceptable when you have an open partner. Yeah. So, but just naming it then will help your partner to not contract a little when something out of the norm happens. And then sometimes it's like you're laughing and you think like, okay, that was funny, but it's also funny, acceptable, and it moves the energy. It doesn't block it. So that's
try
another
new things.
Yeah.
And just one thing before we go on, this is fundamental and basic to you and I, but it's not to everybody. And that is that we are responsible for our own pleasure, not our partners. And so this is another reason why we self-pleasure and learn what we like and then learn how to communicate it.
Yeah.
And that's also liberating to really figure out and wrap your head around.
Yeah, right. Totally. And we'll get to the nitty-gritty examples too about how to specifically ask for one type of thing. Yeah. So we talked about knowing what you like, and I love your just practicing words. Like if you even want to take it back to a remedial level of saying words like, I want you to lick my pussy. Let's say that is unheard of for 60% of the population.
Right.
It's the car. Say it in the car when you're totally alone.
And this is different. I really like this of saying things alone and just practicing, because having it come out of your mouth is what people find really challenging. And the throat chakra can actually close during sex. And along the same lines, if you are with a partner, one way to get comfortable is to use your phone while you also have a bit of distance. And so, for instance, I thought taking sexy selfies, even maybe if you don't necessarily send them, even though you might not be using your voice, you're still getting more comfortable with sexual expression and being comfortable showing your body. If you can send them, definitely do if it's safe. And also learning how to do flirty text messages can eventually snowball into being able to use your voice. And so if this is kind of new or you're uncomfortable, I do think that there's a lot to be said for some digital communication, and that certain things you can practice via text.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that too, because then it matters on how you think so texting is tricky because you don't have to see someone's face, pull a face, but you also might imagine that somebody would not receive that. And so, so just take good care of your system as you're sending these.
And maybe this will say something about the type of partnership you're in or the type of intimacy you're in. I mean, do you feel safe in doing that? What does that say?
Yeah. Well, let's say that I sent a text to a new lover and she didn't know it was coming. So like I send something and she didn't know it was coming. And then she writes, okay, like that, right? Like that is actually really good. This might be a little bit more advanced, but it's a really good inoculation of I'm celebrating that I did this thing that is so hard. It didn't go well and I survived. Fear of rejection is why we don't ask for things in bed. And so the little text, like you said, the little flirty messages that might be like when somebody's in a meeting or something like this, like it depends on how comfortable you feel taking a risk. But I do agree that like the flirty little text messages can be a really fun initiation into
Gateway.
asking for you want
Mhm.
for what you
And
want.
a lot, and leaning into a little bit of discomfort. I mean, you might find eventually that you find it really sexy to push your edges a bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Did you have something else?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay, I have two more things just for getting started. First of all, if you talk about safe sex, this is something that a lot of people find really challenging. But if you're able to do that in a new relationship, really off the bat, just put it out there, that will lead to being comfortable with asking for what you want. Because
Yeah.
having birth control and safe sex is intimate and can, a lot of people just kind of want to wing it and just
Hmm.
get comfortable. Yeah. Same with
Yeah.
for birth control or when were you tested last, just like put it out there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Mm.
And if you, here's my invitation to everyone listening. If you can't, and this is a hard one because sometimes people find it harder to talk about sex than to actually have sex. Like
Yes.
you will get naked and allow someone to put things inside of your body, tongue, mouth, hands, whatever, before you would say these words to them. And how are we going to keep each other safe or safer? I actually invite, again, I am very advanced in verbal communication and in sex talk. So I actually invite new partners to have a little conversation that is like so juicy and fun. And the partners who really step up and ask, come to the table asking a lot of questions like, is anal on the table? And if I say yes, they have a follow-up question of, how much time is needed before we try that? Like, is that a simultaneous thing? Like, these are so much fun.
Mhm.
And you get to know like where someone else is sexually and maybe what their kink is. And I want to talk about kink a little bit later too. A
Okay,
little
because I
bit
have
coming up.
some stuff on that.
Yeah. But having that conversation beforehand is also like how to turn that up. Like, and maybe you have sex once, like in a heated, and then you have like this, and you use protection or something like this. And then you have this really fun conversation. But I honestly believe that if you can't talk about sex in a fun and playful and hot way, maybe wait. Maybe this person is not someone you need to be sharing your body temple with yet.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, comfort and feeling safe is a big part of that. And so I mean, I was going to also say, as maybe in partnership or in dating someone, maybe evaluate what your general intimacy with this person is
Hmm.
first.
And there are people who are listening who are in all phases of their sexual exploration,
Mhm.
and they are in all different types of containers, from casual sex to long term to whatever.
Yeah.
And talking about it can be incredibly hot. And somebody might be very relieved and welcoming that you're the one who brought it up.
Mhm. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And along the exact lines of this, it's not necessarily about asking someone, what are your fantasies? Okay, I feel like that can be kind of intimidating, a little confronting. Start small with maybe asking what you want, maybe asking what they want. Like, can I give you a massage, or bringing it up in other ways? I know sometimes when people ask me, what are your fantasies? I clam up. I'm just like, whoa, okay. And so, which it's lovely to get to that point for sure, but you
Mhm.
don't need to necessarily start with that conversation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's almost like you also want to unroll or unravel this like a gift.
Oh, that's a beautiful
It's
way to
not
put
a
it.
job interview. Nothing is a job interview. And if it starts to feel like a job interview, you're allowed to like smile sexily and say like, "Oh, I can't wait to talk about this a little bit
Yeah,
more."
that's a good tip as well, is be fun and flirty about it. If something doesn't feel right to you.
Yeah.
But mhm.
Yeah, while or it feels right but not yet, right? Like I'll be honest
Yes,
with
thank
you,
you.
I will take naked pictures, but I don't want them without somebody asking me, and I usually don't want them before we've been in bed together. or against a wall or whatever.
Everybody, let's use these pictures intentionally.
Yeah.
But that is a form of communication, and that's why I said, to get comfortable taking selfies, because taking
Mhm.
a selfie and then sending it, that's sending a message, baby. But
For sure, for sure. And okay, so we have like the pre-talk about sort of logistics and how to keep each other comfortable, and also like what might be on the table. And I find that when you have this loose container, then you can play within that container. When you're not sure beforehand how someone feels or what you're going to do, there is a little hesitation and the flow can stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. And so,
definitely.
like, just it does not reduce sexiness, it increases like the sexiness of a session or a play, whatever.
Mm.
Uh,
And if you are in partnership, the intimacy
yeah.
and the friendship as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question that I get a lot from like what I do this relationship renew. And there are a lot of people who are disappointed in their long-term relationship sexually. They're dissatisfied. Like they love their partner, it's great, but it's either super vanilla for them or it's almost like when you don't ask the neighbor their name after three times, or they say the wrong name like three times, it's too late, right? You're just
Yeah.
Carl for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And so I do think that most people, every person listening to this podcast and anybody who's ever been intimate with me, pleasing the other person is paramount. Like pleasing the other person, there's not a lot of people who just want to like get one off using you, right? Like not in
I
my
know.
world. In my world, that just doesn't happen. And
In
so,
the yes, in this community for sure, the people we know. Okay, absolutely.
yeah, there are people using other people for sex. They're not listening to these podcasts, right? Like so, and so my question is, with this desire to please another, but one time 2 years ago, or two times 2 years ago, your partner squirmed a little and you told yourself a story, they don't like this. Let's say you're going down, you're going
Perfect
down.
example.
Yeah, you're going down on your partner. You're doing oral in some way, and you detect like squirming, or they move away, or they shift their hips. You told yourself a story, but you're too afraid to say, like, and I will say that, like, I've heard somebody say, like, I didn't think you liked that, so I stopped trying. But no conversation was ever had about it ever. And so then they don't do that. And you think they don't like giving it and they think you don't like receiving it. And you spend years
And
like,
how many conversations is this war team? And this will have a snowball effect.
yeah. And so, my specific question to you is how would you invite somebody? Let's say you were coaching them, right? How would you invite someone to broach that subject with their fairly long-term partner?
Well, hopefully you can get to the point where you are doing some of it in the moment. And so I will say a couple tips for doing that is first of all, like I mentioned this earlier, ask, make offerings. Can I do this? Because it makes the conversation about reciprocity easier. And then this is something that's really easy to ask. People might laugh, but ask, is this good? Do you like this? I mean, I like I said, I know that sounds basic, but a lot of people don't do it. And if you can get that out, I mean, that is a conversation. And so just, I mean, kind of get used to some of the basics. I mean, asking someone if this is good, that's hot.
Yeah, I would talk about it I would talk about it while you're fully dressed, maybe while you're getting a coffee or you're walking the dog or something. And I would say to somebody, is this a good time to talk about our intimacy? I noticed that.
Hmm.
I want you to know that from where I'm coming from, like, I would love to add this spiciness. Are you open to that? Like, relieving any judgment or anything that would make somebody think defensively. I tried that in
Yes.
1999 and you got up and went to the bathroom. So I know you hate it, right?
Oh,
And
dear.
when they say that
Hmm.
and say like, maybe be playful and be like, I'm not sure how Eckhart Tolle does it, but let's live in the present moment or something like that. Like invitation, initiating.
One way to do that is if you're feeling initially uncomfortable with that type of trickiness, I want to try this, or I noticed you weren't as into this. Start with what you do like and get comfortable with that. You probably know what sharing frames is. After the sexual act and you're, maybe cuddling, maybe going out and doing something, get comfortable saying, it was really hot when you did this, or I really loved the look in your eye when you did this, so get comfortable with all the positive things. And you'll get to the point where you can talk about anything. So a lot of this is a learning curve, and it's a little more sexy, or it's more comfortable probably telling someone like
totally, Janice. And I think what you're saying is so impactful, maybe even more so than the pre-talk. I don't want to be competitive about these tips and advices, but the spin, as I call it, I did an entire newsletter one month about the post spin. What felt good? I actually had a sex journal with a partner where we took turns writing down what the actual felt sense was. So what happened, how we each felt in the moment, and how we feel now. Oh,
likes this.
It was so good. It was so good. And it was so much fun because we took turns writing it. And so it was this mutual journal. And it was it was just really so much fun and really so
God, that would blow my mind if Amanda. I've given my notebook to my partner. Go home and write.
I love it. And again, it's not everyone feels comfortable.
That is advanced.
Yeah. Saying all the words, but when you are almost dictating what someone else is saying, it's even a deeper connection. It happened to both of you, and it also helps you to know that there were two different perspectives of what happened here, and that's okay, right? Like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
The left side, like here's a funny little tip, is I've spoken to a lot of sex coaches and a lot of clients who the left side of the labia, the left side of the lips is super, super sensitive, right? And this comes up a lot, like I don't know if there's any scientific data. I just know that a lot of people have shared this to me.
There is. And in orgasmic meditation, that's where we focus because there's.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. So the spin. Okay. Another tip. I love that we're using the word tip here a lot. Another tip for somebody when I would say that human error with the intention of wanting to show somebody, I'm so eager, I love this. Like, let's say like, I love to eat pussy, or I love to lick you, or I love to like go down on you. Whatever your phrasing is, I find that both men and women want to show their eagerness and they go straight for the clit. Like, I want to show you how much I know, and I want to show you how I want to gobble you up. And so what I do is if somebody does that, I do not judge them because I think, oh, they're so into it. And I do. Shame is one of the things that shuts us down in stress. And if I say like, whoa there, like immediately shame, right? And I don't want that. I don't want them to contract. So I stop what's happening and I take their hand and I say, every woman is different. Every person with a vulva is different. And I say, if go here, or I show them like on the inside of their thigh or something. I'm like, circle it until I am like dying. I'm begging for it, right? So I like make this concentric circle, or I show them on their hand. I actually just have a t-shirt that says, "You're not a DJ." Because that, that is all
important. And that's
this is what I'm saying. Same with the tongue, right? This pointy finger, pointy tongue, throw that away. And so I say like, and I don't say like, you got that from porn. Don't say anything like that. It is someone's fault how they were educated. It is not someone's fault how they're defaulting. their eagerness, you're just showing them your preference. And if you say like flat tongue and show them like on their collarbone, show them on their hand,
That's
that
going
is
to blow a
such,
lot of people's minds, everybody.
yeah. Um,
And again, you have to know and at first,
yes,
and this can take practice. This is not going to happen overnight. So, well, I don't know. Maybe we're going to embolden some people to get out there tonight and start going for it.
I look them right in the face and I say, I take directives really well.
Yeah, baby. That's hot. Yeah, that's good. I like this.
And some people are like, just exactly how you're doing it. But I want them to know that I do not feel criticized if you say like a little lower or cup this or whatever the thing is that they're wanting in the moment, you say that to me and I will do it.
And even a little bit of nonverbal. I know my partner goes crazy when he's going down and I like kind of move his head a little. It's
Yes,
communication. That's asking
totally.
for what you want
Mhm.
in a sexy way. And
Oh, for
like it blows
sure.
his mind.
Yeah, I love that. And you guys didn't see Janice and I are on Zoom, but she just moved, like she just made this gesture, like moving the head, and even her hands were like so sexy, watery, like just moving, and so that it's an invitation and not like a slapping a hint. Not that, not like that. That's the thing, is nonverbal and verbal communication should be an invitation to try this
And
instead
you are
of
co-creating.
yeah, instead of a criticism of not like that. And even when I say
Or,
that, my body goes and it shuts down, like it tenses up.
mm.
We talked about the ever-changing pleasures. Like
And
sometimes,
as far as nonverbal, also breathing a little and make sure you're comfortable in your body will help you to communicate more. So,
oh yeah,
mm.
so good, so good. Yeah, if you find yourself in your head, so one of the reasons why we don't ask for what we want is we're so stuck in our heads about performative natures or something. There are two things you could try. One is it's called kumbhaka, it's breath retention. So if let's say you're worried about why am I taking so long?
Yeah, I want to talk more about orgasm.
Okay, there are two things you could do. One is this breath retention. So breathe into the point of contact, right? So if you're in penetration, the actual point of contact, if somebody is performing, that's interesting that I use that word. I usually don't use that word. If somebody's like gobbling you up and enjoying the juicy oralness of your body, right? Like your genital, and you're kind of in your head either about the taxes or about the dog is scratching at the door or whatever. You can do two. I love how you mentioned breathing. Two of my favorite breaths for getting out of your head are breath retention. And so you're going to breathe in for 7 so you're using two holistic sex tools at the same time.
Okay.
One is you're breathing into the point of contact. So you want to feel more pleasure, but you're up here in your head. Just breathe in for 7. If you can't breathe in for 7, hold for 7, breathe out for 7. Just do it for 4 or 5. But so you're going to breathe in and you're going to focus right on the point of contact. And then you're going to hold for 7. And you're just going to be like, just like this. Like you're going to focus on that. And then you exhale for 7, hold for 7, inhale for 7, and do that. You will be shocked. Like, here's the thing I find that my clients who have been through a ton of therapy, spinning around in their heads forever, they think, really? That simple, like kumbhaka breath retention is what got me to climax during penetration. And I'm like, yes.
Awesome.
And then the second breath is open mouth, connected breathing. And so
Okay.
this is how I do breath work. But if you do like this, like, and you no pauses between in and out of the mouth.
I'm trying to do it right now.
Yep. And you'll notice you might get a little lightheaded, but it takes you out of your head and into your body. So those are my two things for people who are spinning in their head. A lot of times we don't ask for what we want because we're in our heads about how they're going to take it, what happened last time, what we're all up in our head. So if you want to get out of your head, just save this Like and follow for more tips.
Yeah, both of us. And oh, that is great. Love both of those.
Yeah.
And then as far as getting out of your head is have a commitment to yourself and hope and a conversation with your partner about not having orgasm be the goal, having pleasure and connection be the
Mhm.
goal. I think a lot of people get in their head about whether they are going to come out or
Mhm.
whether they're going to make their partner come. It pulls you out of things, and there's a lot more to sex and intimacy than that. And you might actually find that not focusing on climax will add a lot more pleasure too.
Yes, I agree with that. Like cheerleader fireworks over and over. A lot of times when people are having trouble climaxing, if you go on like a 1 week restriction or a 1 month, like you're not even allowed, it usually then happens, right? Like, but really tell yourself, like, come to the point where you are just focusing on pleasure and that's enough. There are deeper reasons why some of this stuff doesn't feel easy to you, right? And so conditioning, not having permission that we're allowed to just have pleasure. We're supposed to be giving value, or we can't just relax our body. We have to be producing either that comes over like you have to make this amount of money, you have to have this many orgasms, we have all these end goals, like you said. And we can't just experience pleasure in our body for no other reason. And so what you said is also very, very key in this. And if that seems like something that you can't let yourself do, just reach out to me. Like we'll have a conversation about what's under that. Um,
Wonderful. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I have a question for you specifically. How would you ask somebody to slow the fuck down? Like, here's what I see on the internet is like us telling men, slow the fuck down.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
you don't want to say to somebody, okay, so men and women alike are addicted to friction. This is just a fact. We are addicted to friction. There is so much more.
Yeah. And
How
that's
would
my
you
tip.
suggest? Yeah, how would
Okay.
you suggest? Like, what are the actual words and ways to bring that up?
I immediately what came to mind is focusing more on kissing and have that be a
Mm,
big part of foreplay would be really slowing down, showing your partner what you like by you slowing down, and maybe light touch and kisses on other parts of the body as well. Guiding a little bit, like maybe quote unquote taking the lead and putting more emphasis, like I said, on other types of foreplay,
okay.
including if you're hoping to slow things down. I mean, foreplay is not all about just getting your clothes off and touching boobs and kissing. It also has to do with over generally you and your partner connecting and having good communication day to day and being in the mood when you're already around each other. And that would be, yeah, these are all examples of slow sex.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. And especially I want to land on what you said about communicating during the day, right? Because um responsive desire and spontaneous desire and these type of things, which that's a whole nother episode because it'll take us an hour to talk about it, um, are really important because that slow boil, right? Like getting your partner turned on by, like you said, like little texts or little messages, or, maybe a little while you're getting dressed and you like the way the curve of your breast looks before you put on your blazer and you take a picture and send it to your partner
Yeah.
or something like this.
It's all communication, it's all setting the stage, and it's also reinforcing the point that this is a process and we're
Yeah.
slow.
Yeah. I also like the phrases. So let's talk about some like brass tacks, like actual phrases. I like the phrase, like, talk about what is working. I love your passion. I love that you want to devour me. Like, can we try swirling that energy at about 25%? Like, exactly what you're doing, but at 25%. Like, let's say I'm specifically talking about thrusting from a male partner. When I say to at 25% of your current, they reduce it by 25%. And I'm like, no, what you're doing exactly, but at 25%,
Less,
reducing it.
75% less.
Yeah, that blows their mind. It wouldn't even occur to them. And it's because what they have wired in their mind is all the slowness comes before penetration, right? But the actual penetration needs to be like a jackhammer.
Yeah, I love that. That's how so many women describe it. Male listeners, take heed. Well,
I
also,
mean,
if you find, go ahead. If
I
you
was
find
going to say, like, we're not totally against like that. Oh
I
my
want
God.
to be railed once in a while,
Yeah,
girl.
that's exactly the words I was going to use. Right. But
I
not for the whole time. That is friction. And friction is hot. I am not telling you that friction is not hot, but only friction is like only having red meat. Sometimes roasted potatoes with raspberry or with rosemary and like the butter that swirls around in your tongue and is like browned, like all of these nuances bring that to something even deeper, greater, more meaningful, beyond imagining. And it's not just that the men are doing it for the women. This is something I want to correct. That slowness is for you, men. It is for you.
You'll be
Give that,
amazed at sensations
give
that
that a
you
try.
didn't
Yeah.
know. And if you find the 25% thing a little inaccessible, you can also ask, go slower. I like it when you go slow. Just and then get to move up
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. And sometimes, like you can do a cutesy thing like, may I? And then you flip so that you're totally in charge of the pace
Yes.
and the tempo, and you just like send all your power and energy into these really slow, like wavy thrusts. And if they start to like they want to go, 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 you're just like, and you pull back.
Yes, be cute.
That these are the nonverbal. You pull back and you're like cutesy, 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 or dominatrix, like whatever the mood
Uh,
and the feel is for that session, you can still direct it to just show them, wait till you feel this, right? Like, wait till you feel that. I also think toys, like showing someone with toys. This may be a mid-range, like not
that's what I
everybody
was
feels
thinking,
this
but
is
I'll
not
go.
for newbies, but having a toy where you show them or you have toys together, I think that's also super great. Okay, I have about 5 minutes. So
Yeah, I know. I'm keeping my
let's
answer.
talk about kink really fast. So
Yeah, okay.
okay. So we talked about like how to initiate even talking about it. We talked about the pre-talk, the spin, some of the words, how to get out of your head so that you can talk, the verbalizing,
hmm
dancing. What about when people have kinks that, and I just want to say, like anybody listening, the difference between a fetish must be present for somebody to climax. A kink is like, let's play, let's do this. There's nothing wrong with either or, but the reason I'm not using the word fetish is because a fetish generally means this thing. Like, let's say I have like a gray stone fetish. That gray stone has to be on me or present or in my mind for me to
Love
climax.
it.
Has to be in order for arousal and climax. So, but a kink is just like a playful session. How do you suggest people bring up their kink?
I've got a go-to that I tell people about all the time, and that is the actually pretty popular BDSM quiz. Don't know if you've taken it, but it is really out there.
It's on my story today.
What?
My results are on my story today.
Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm gonna go and look. It is so much fun to do. It is it opens up conversations when I had already taken it before and it's so much fun. But still, when I started dating Chris, I brought it up. We both took it separately and very naturally talked about our results. And it's
Yeah.
continued to come up. Like I said, it's fun, it's casual, it's very, very specific. Go and take this quiz. That's my biggest tip for getting
Yeah.
started.
I love that. And I love how you said like it initiated a conversation
Mhm.
because it's really like you're looking at these results almost like ENFP, like
It
the,
is, yeah.
yeah. And so,
Uh,
and I have taken it over the course of 10 years and it changes and it
Okay.
should change, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And so looking at that and what does kink mean to you? Like, so I'm very high on the kink scale. And with a new partner, that might not be obvious because anybody could, like, I look like, I look like I could be teaching your kid mathematics. Like,
Not about that, but
but like, like I don't have a lot of like what I guess what I'm saying is like that test that you're talking about, and you could do it through like Lady Jaya or there's the BDSM sites. We'll put some links. I think we can do that, right? Put some links in
oh
the show.
yeah, and it's not all BDSM stuff. It's a lot of kink and how and like green, red, yellow types
Yeah.
scenarios. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a person who is very aware of what she likes and has some experience, I have written some little erotica I know what my turn-ons are. And so I've written erotica to a new partner. If they say, "Oh, it's so cute that you have a fantasy of being tied up," I'm like, we're done here, right? Like it's a little bit like
Ew.
the head patting, like, "Oh, it's so cute that you have that." And I'm like, "Dude, or madame, like, let me explain something to you." Like, but and so it's a little bit fun to, if you're not someone like me who actually writes erotica, but it's a little bit fun to have the test results and show them either to a new partner or like you said, like you have an established sexual relationship with somebody.
But we didn't when we took it.
Okay.
It was
Yeah.
really, really, really early days.
Yeah. I am actually not attached to people having the same kink that I have. So what I do, and this is what my coaching is, right, is what is under that. So like, let's say like my partner likes to be tied up, but I could never tie somebody up. I don't feel comfortable. Something about that feels really bad to me. What can I give her or him that satisfies that what is under their needs? So even if you guys don't match up, this does not mean that it's like astrology, right? You wouldn't stop talking to a Leo because, some internet thing tells you you're not compatible. That's bullshit. You can be compatible even if like your sensual is much lower than your kink and the other person's is in reverse, right? It's about finding ways, and this is where like a session with Janice or a session with me, you can get these really creative ways of how can I get my partner's needs met on this scale? So sexual, sensual, kinky, energetic, right?
Erotic blueprints, everyone.
How can I get their needs met, like bondage, right? Like without bonding them, right? Like maybe it's like
Without
a
bonding them.
yeah, without, yeah. And so there are these fun ways to explore. So if I were to sum up what Janice and I talked about, and I want to hear your summary too, it is just this is for play. This is for pleasure. Yes, this is for um, intimate bonding and connection. Yes, it matters, but you're not going to mess it. What if you can't get it wrong? What if this is a way that you can only get closer? And if you have a disastrous, like we did not like the ice and the wax at all, that's not the only time you're ever going to be having sex. Just understanding that, just like you do in business, you're going to try something and it's not going to work out. And that actually will bring you closer when you do the spin. Like, oh my God, when you were upside down on the thing, all I could think about was
Yeah.
that time at the trampoline park or something. It was not sexy at all, right? Like those things are fun and beautiful and they add this play which relaxes you. And when you're in a relaxed state, you're open to more pleasure. So like, don't take yourself so seriously.
Right. Mhm. Yeah, have an attitude of curiosity. I think don't focus on any end goal. And like I've said several times, start with small things that make you feel comfortable, even if it's starting out taking selfies of yourself. Yeah, it's all about practice and leaning into a little bit of discomfort and learning over time what feels right to you.
Yeah, I hope I am finding this out until the last moment,
Mhm.
right? Exploring new things, figuring new things out, talking about it. Yeah, so communicating what you desire, I think we have so many nuggets in this.
This was a good one. Yeah, we know what we're talking about here.
Exactly. Oh, so good. All right. So reach out to Janice, reach out to me. If you want to dive a little bit deeper, if you have very specific things I'm sure that there are very specific situations and scenarios wherever you are in your search for more pleasure that Janice and I can help you with. And so book with one of us, at least to get on the path. It's totally worth it, because when we offer ourselves pleasure in what I call the body temple, right, in your physical being, it opens your life up. When you do everything from a place of pleasure and bliss, everything, parenting, walking the dog, walking about town, choosing your hair color, all of these things become a turn on. And so, yeah, completely worth it. So all that stuff's going to be in the show notes. Go check us out. And Janice, thank you so much. This has been a hot conversation.
You are so welcome. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everything you're doing.
You're welcome. Many times more. Heartfelt thank you for listening. I am honored every time you choose the One Podcast. Intimacy does not require perfection. Big, juicy love requires us to get curious, to offer ourselves what we are searching for in others. From that place, relationships feel easier. If you feel like someone you know would really like this episode, send them the link right now. Let's courageously practice love together. Life is an absolute blast when you love yourself.
Thank you for listening to Sex and the Solo Girl with Janice Formichella, the podcast for those who want to add more flavor to their relationships with themselves and others. If you liked today's episode, make sure to head over to Instagram and let her know. See you next week.